You're listening to The Pulse with Pat Strathman on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM.
What's up, Wichita? Welcome. A Wednesday edition of The Pulse on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. And we're broadcasting live from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row from New Orleans. Boy, do we have some great guests lined up for you all throughout the day. We'll tell you about the lineup as we progress throughout the show. The reason why we got to rush here with the intro is because I got a guy who's ready to rock and roll. It is Jason Fitz joining us from Yahoo Sports. NFL analyst Jason Fitz. He is the host of Inside Coverage, which is recording from the Toyota Land Cruiser set on Radio Row this week. Tune in to Inside Coverage on Yahoo Sports with Jason Fitz, Jory Epstein, Charles Robinson, and Frank Schwab. Inside Coverage breaks down what's happening inside NFL locker rooms and front offices. Jason, glad to have you here.
Man, this is fun. This is just such a blast and such an honor that we get to be here. Every year that I get to walk out and see Radio Row, Media Row, that we call it, every year I just stop for a minute. It's like, man, just stop and appreciate it. You never know how many of these you get to cover. And I was lucky enough in my past life in music to get to play at a bunch of Super Bowls, and lucky enough now in my life in sports to get to cover a bunch of them. And every year I'm around it, I just stop and think, man, this is it. This is so surreal. So it's really cool.
Let's start off with probably a question you've been asked a ton already. Maybe you've already discussed it. Do you have Chiefs fatigue? This is a historic moment, a potentially historic moment, where they're going for 3 in a row, trying to hoist up the Vince Lombardi trophy once again. They're in it for the 5th time in the last 6 years, so that's pretty insane when you think about it. But boy, you look at the Chiefs, and I know we're from the Midwest, but you look at the Chiefs. We used to hate the Patriots growing up, and now everyone's looking at the Chiefs going, oh, no, I don't want Patrick Mahomes to get in there. I don't want the officials that aid them to get to the Super Bowl. Do you have Chiefs fatigue?
Not at all. And the funny thing is, my right arm is a tattoo of everywhere I've lived in the moments I'm proudest of. One of those tattoos is the outline of the Raiders logo with the American flag in it from playing the national anthem before Raiders games on fiddle. I love the Raiders. I live, eat, and breathe the Raiders. So if anybody in the world should have Chiefs fatigue, it should be me. I want to appreciate greatness. And the problem with Chiefs fatigue is that it works now, but it's like the old Cinderella song, don't know what you got till it's gone. In 10 years, everybody's going to turn around and say, oh, no. You don't understand. The Chiefs were really, this is the wildest part of what we do. I think the reason Chiefs fatigue exists is that this particular iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs wins the type of games most of our favorite teams lose every week. Most of our favorite teams don't win a game because of a blocked field goal or a random fumbled snap that makes no sense with only seconds to go on the clock, or whatever a call is that happens in the game that I happen to not think is any issue with the officials. It's just the way the game played out. 13 seconds left in a playoff game is how most of our favorite teams lose, not how most of our favorite teams win. And when you watch the Chiefs do it over and over and over again, it frustrates people. But, man, I think this whole era is going to realize in 10 years when somebody else is trying to prop up the next great quarterback that what we're seeing is incredible. And I just want to appreciate greatness when I see it, even if it's from a team that I grew up absolutely hating at this point. It's like you just have to appreciate the greatness of what we see.
Which is tough, especially for Raiders fans, that's for sure.
Yeah.
How have the Chiefs been able to do it? I think that's something that I just continue to marvel at, because I know it's the same cast of characters, but also last year it was the worst group of wide receivers in Chiefs history, and then you bring in Hollywood Brown, but yet you bring back Juju Smith-Schuster because he was available, and you look at the pass catchers, and do you have Rashee Rice out there? How have they been able to get back to the Super Bowl once again?
They have, I think, what historically is going to end up being the single greatest coach of all time. I think they have the single greatest quarterback of all time. And I think they have the single greatest defensive coordinator of all time. So when you have this holy triumvirate of two coaches that you just don't beat coming off a bye week, you have a quarterback that knows how to make the right plays at the right time. And I know that this wasn't Mahomes' best year, but I think we have to just step back and realize that Mahomes' greatness comes in. They always say that there's 4 or 5 plays that will win or lose a football game. He makes those 4 or 5 plays every single time. There's an absence of pressure and adrenaline for the Kansas City Chiefs now. And people always talk about how you handle pressure. Well, think about the first time you ever did a radio show. Probably were a little nervous, right? When you do it over and over and over again, eventually you're like, yep, just give me a mic and I'll talk about whatever for 2 hours. I don't care what. Everybody listening has that experience in life. That's the Super Bowl for the Chiefs now. They've been in these situations so many times that there just isn't any. It's just another day. And most teams in the Super Bowl eventually, or in the playoffs, eventually start to feel that. I talked to Josh Jacobs, and he said it was surreal to him when you think about every snap could send you home. Right? The Chiefs don't even think about that anymore because they've been in the playoffs so many times. It's like it doesn't really work that way. You combine all of those little things together, and that's like Voltron. It makes one robot that just kicks butt, and that's what they do every single time.
When you look at Patrick Mahomes now to when he first started, what have you seen from him in terms of his evolution as a quarterback?
Pre-snap, post-snap, he's just one of the smartest quarterbacks we've seen. And I think you can't fool him. You don't fool him. And when he has to make the play, his athleticism fools you, which is interesting. But I'll go back. Trey Wingo has been running with the stat that I think is really important. There's been 140 times in modern NFL history that a quarterback in the playoffs or Super Bowl, it's a lot of numbers, 140 times, has had the ball in their hands with under 4 minutes to go, needing a score to tie or win. 140 times. 40% of the time about that's been converted into a win. Point of reference, Tom Brady had the ball in his hands under 4 minutes to go, playoff Super Bowl 11 times. 5 times he got the score. That's above average. Drew Brees, 6 times, 3 times he got the score, above average. Patrick Mahomes has been in that situation 7 times, and he has gotten the score 7 times. So, like, you think about the thing for Patrick Mahomes is that there really is no moment that is too big for him. He does a great job of adjusting to the adjustments. He does a great job of forcing the defender to make an athletic decision. Am I going to go after him or am I going to step back? And he takes what that defender gives him over and over and over again. And because he has so many different delivery points with the football, it just works. He can just, you run up to him. If you're slow and unathletic, you're going to get tackled. You run up to Mahomes, he's going to make a little move, and then, like, from between the legs while nobody's looking, it's a 7-yard pass for a first down. It's just he breaks the back of the defender over and over and over.
Let's flip over to the defense. Steve Spagnuolo is getting a lot of love there in Kansas City, and rightfully so. What he's been able to do has been truly remarkable because there at the beginning it was, if the defense could just be average, if they can just be average, boy, the Chiefs are going to be so good. Now I feel like if the Chiefs offense can just be okay, the Chiefs defense is going to be right there. They're going to be consistent. They'll be able to get stuff done. What do you see from the Chiefs defense? What makes the Chiefs defense so special?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Like, the Chiefs, to get it very clear for everybody, are a defensive football team with a great quarterback. Like, they are no longer what Patrick Mahomes was the first couple of years he went to the Super Bowl, and that's facts. And the thing of it is he confuses everybody. He's just smart. You know, we talk a lot about, and go back and watch the end of the last game, and they talk about the well-timed blitz that came off the edge. There's just this moment where Buffalo didn't have the time pre-snap to do what they needed to do, to be able to read and recognize. He hid what he was going to do. He made them think something was coming from one side. It actually came from the other. That level of trickery you're not tricking a rookie quarterback that's never played in the league before. You're throwing something out that the entire offensive line, the running back, and the quarterback couldn't dissect, even though they've all played so much football together. Spags does a brilliant job of knowing when to do what you expect and when to do what you don't expect. I think you have to some trickery there, and he does a great job of figuring out when to time, who to send, and how to send them. And it's just, it confuses. We talk about putting them in a blender. He puts quarterbacks in a blender all the time.
Going over to Philadelphia now, if the Chiefs weren't going for a historic three-peat, do you think that there would be a few more people talking about Jalen Hurts being back in the Super Bowl once again? Because I feel like this week, Saquon this, Saquon that, look at the offensive line, look at the defense, and oh, there's Jalen Hurts, who's right there. Who, by the way, has a chance. This is a legacy game for Jalen Hurts. You beat Patrick Mahomes. You knock the king off the throne, and you do it. No, a lot of people are probably like, well, it's Saquon, whatever. I don't know. I think this is a pretty important game for Jalen Hurts for sure. So when you look at Philly, and particularly the offense, especially with Jalen Hurts, what do you see from them outside of Saquon? Because that's going to get a lot of love, and rightfully so. But what has Jalen Hurts been able to do this season, despite the fact that he's probably not fully healthy right now?
Now, I think the best we've seen of Jalen is when he's definitive this year. And this offense has allowed him to do that. One thing that has been really smart by Kellen Moore, particularly the back half of the season, there's been a lot. Play action is a big part of everything when you have Saquon. I get that. But even out of play action, they're asking him to make 1 or 2 quick reads and get rid of the ball, right? And so there have been periods when you have great wide receivers that want the ball all the time. I think that there were periods where maybe that overwhelmed. The concept was I got to get the ball to A.J. Brown, not the concept of I got to get 10 yards. It's a very different logic, right? And Jalen is really, in the last 6 weeks of the season, thrown all of that away. I truly believe the Eagles when they say we don't care how we win, we just want to win football games. So Jalen certainly is. Oh, they took the shackles off a little bit. He'd love to be a bigger part of the offense. He has pride in what he does. I think that's all fair. He has two of the best weapons that you can have in the NFL, and he has one of the two best offensive lines in the league, which is a huge part of this. But I mean, the method is so it runs off of Saquon. So I fear you're right. If the Eagles win this Super Bowl, and they on paper they should. I don't think they will, but they should. If the Eagles win the Super Bowl, the story's going to be, oh my God, Saquon did it. But you're also right that in 10 years, when we're talking about the greats, everybody's going to have to acknowledge, hold on. Jalen Hurts, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win. The entire world sees you differently. There is no mistake that if Jimmy Garoppolo had held on to a fourth quarter lead against Kansas City, he would be seen incredibly differently in his NFL career than he is right now.
That's a good way to look at it, that's for sure. Saquon Barkley, I know MVP-wise, we're set to find out who's going to be the MVP. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Should it be Saquon?
It should be. And in fairness, if you listen to Inside Coverage on Yahoo Sports, I've been saying that all year.
Yeah.
This isn't a new thing. I just interviewed Justin Jefferson today, and he was pretty honest about how frustrating it is. Everybody understands that quarterback's the most important position in sports, but I mean, look around at Philadelphia and ask yourself, how does this offense tick? What is the thing that you have to account for? And I love everybody says Spags won't let Saquon run on it. To that I say, if I step on a basketball court today at the Y and LeBron is there, I could say, I'm not going to let LeBron dunk on me. I'm 5'9". All right, LeBron's going to do whatever he wants.
Oh, come on, you got a 60-inch vertical. No big deal.
It's fine. It's good. Saquon's going to eat. I think he's going to eat in this game. And win or lose this game, I think Saquon's going to have a good game. And there's no proof of concept he won't. The yards before contact that he has are through the roof, which allows him more time to read and recognize and make his jump cuts. And then you send so many run blitzes after him. The minute you run blitz Saquon, if he gets through the first level of defense, that's going to be a 60-yard run. That's what he has done and made look easy all year. Shame on the Giants for not building their system around. This isn't about the success he didn't have. It's about the fact that the Giants had him in the room and never looked at it and said, hey, we need to build around this guy whatever it takes. They never did that. Shame on them.
Yeah, instead they said, hey, let's give Daniel Jones this wonderful contract, and oh, whoops, that didn't go so hot for the New York Giants, that's for sure. Philadelphia's defense, I think you look at the metrics, and they are just off the charts amazing. Why is Philadelphia such a good defense?
Yeah, because they get pressure up the interior in a beautiful way. Like Jalen Carter, and I think we need to continually have the context of why Jalen Carter was available in the draft where he was. There were issues. I think we need to not because everybody says, "Oh my God, how'd they get this guy?"
Yeah, what a steal! Yeah.
The best player available in that draft, according to some, happened to be there. They picked him, and he has done a great job of putting his past behind him and playing for today. They also had a Hall of Fame level offseason. I mean, you get Zach Ronka coming in at the linebacker position. They also draft Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, 2 guys. Again, I covered the draft at this point for 8 years of my life. We all knew that these guys were hey, best available corner in the eyes of most was Quinyon Mitchell. And all the Eagles did was sit there and say, hey, y'all find amongst yourself these quarterbacks. We're going to take the best available corner. And what do you know? So, they can press. They can drop their coverage in a lot of ways. And Jalen Carter makes such a difference. That's the craziest part of this matchup. Joe Thuney moving to the outside has helped Kansas City's line. But it's made the interior of their offensive line susceptible. And Jalen Carter is going to throw men around like they are rag dolls to get after Mahomes. I think that Andy Reid's going to have to move the pocket throughout the course of this. They're going to have a floating pocket to get the opportunity for Mahomes to have some time to either take off or throw the football. Jalen Carter is a record. And then Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper are just 2 of the examples in the back end of this defense of why it's tough. The Chiefs are going to have to get rid of the ball immediately. It's got to be a very frustrating day where they just simply don't let the defensive line have time.
You brought up Carter. Well, he plays a lot there for left defensive tackle. Maybe they'll move him, but it doesn't happen too often because the amount of snaps, he's probably got over 1,000 snaps, and the majority of them right there at left defensive tackle. So that means he would square off with Trey Smith at right guard.
Yeah.
Is that the matchup for you up front? 100%?
Yeah. And they don't move him, I would. I mean, the first thing I do is be like, hey,
go over to Mike Caliendo. Why don't you go on the other side?
Yeah. Today we're going to move you over just a couple of feet. We're going to ask you to do the same thing. If I got to pick my matchup, I think that's pretty clear, right? I would move him around. But even if you don't move him around, he is at this point, he's an unblockable force up the middle. And while a very different player, I think we have to remember the impact that Aaron Donald had in the Super Bowl, right? And when you start thinking, and look, the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for one clear reason. Their offensive line was not up to the challenge. And that's what everybody lost in that week coming up. Well, everybody just presumed that they'd roll through it even though their offensive line wasn't good enough. And then it wasn't good enough in the game. I think Jalen Carter could take this game over. I keep stacking all of these things that make it sound like a Philadelphia win. It's just the problem is the only way the Eagles win is if they're up by 2 scores, as we outlined. You don't beat the Chiefs in a 1-score game. So the question isn't can the Eagles beat the Chiefs, it's can the Eagles handily beat the Chiefs. I don't know how you beat Andy Reid coming off a bye week handily. So even though all my math is mathing over here saying, well, the Eagles should win this game, there's just this big old, three guys over here. To me, Andy Reid, Spags, and Mahomes, at this point, they're like the 2 old Muppets sitting over watching. They're just laughing at all of us saying how this game's going to go. But, yeah, the Eagles have the matchup advantage in the interior, particularly.
So how's Kansas City win? We already kind of know how Philly's going to win. How's Kansas City win?
Quick release of the football, which is what they'll do. Stay measured, which is what they'll do. I think that they're going to give up some big plays, but bend don't break is fine. Look back at that Washington drive that we saw, and it's like, hey, you can look at some of these 18-play drives and say, okay, there's going to have to be a lot of just bend don't break. Hold them to field goals, right? Hold them to field goals and trust that your guy's going to get touchdowns. And I do think it's really interesting because Travis Kelce didn't have the biggest game last time. I get that. But Travis Kelce is still Travis Kelce. He's going to go off. So I think it's interesting to see how they integrate Kelce into this. He should have some advantages.
Well, he's got a little firepower. He's got Taylor Swift by his side. Come on now.
Who doesn't want Taylor Swift by their side, right? Hey, that would motivate me too. I don't know, having Taylor. I would have just married her already and taken my cut of the Taylor Swift. I'd have been the best stay-at-home dog dad ever. I'd be like, honey, you're going to be on tour. I'll stay at home, make the food. I'll do my podcast with my brother. We'll just live off of your riches. That's what I would do.
That's a decent thing to do for sure. What is the final score?
27-23 Chiefs. So Chiefs win, late touchdown, puts them up. Eagles get the ball back. They're trying to figure out a way to get down there. They need a touchdown to win. Field goal doesn't help them. They get shut down. Chiefs win the game.
Okay, very descriptive. What's coming up tomorrow for you?
Inside coverage. We're doing a lot this week at Yahoo Sports, and then also Yahoo Sports. If you check out the app, we're talking to everybody. So just like you are, I feel like we're running the laundry list of people coming through. But we're having fun with everybody. We're playing a card game with them. So while we're interviewing, we're getting them a little engaged playing some cards. So it's fun.
Okay, cool. What card game?
It's a tarot card game that we've specifically designed around questions. So.
Awesome. Cool. Fantastic stuff. Well, Fitz, I appreciate you getting us in your schedule just for a little bit, because as you just talked about, is madness. You're talking to Justin Jefferson. You're talking to all these different guys. So I appreciate your time here today. Enjoy the rest of the week, all right?
Enjoy the week. You too, my friend.
All right. Should be a lot of fun. Jason Fitz, Jason Anderson, 810 WHB, our station. Jason Fitz with Yahoo Sports, NFL analyst. Catch inside coverage there with Yahoo Sports. We'll take a break and come back with more from Super Bowl 59 Radio Row.